eyebrows and no makeup, it's just, oh God, it's so aggressive, and I'm sorry, but oh my God, I look like an angry bird. Let's just get started. Hey guys, it's me, Michelle. Welcome back to this mess. In today's video, we are going to be covering a topic that is quite complex, quite multi-layered. Much like an onion, this is going to be a lot of layers, a lot of crying, and a lot of pain. Probably more for me than for you, but it's definitely like, wow, that happened, huh? Today's video is summarizing, addressing, putting into words what it is and why it is that everyone seems to be mad at James Charles. Spoiler alert, it's because of James Charles. A lot of the things I'm going to discuss today have to do with pedophilic tendencies, grooming. There's also going to be some conversation about suicidal thoughts, suicide. So if any of those things you find triggering, please just skip this video or wait until you're in a more healthy mental space to absorb this kind of content. It is a lot. This is just my attempt at condensing all of why James Charles should not be welcomed back on the platform. I think he is, not to quote a racist, but I do think he's a danger to society in more ways than one. Please don't sue me, disclaimer. I'm just giving my opinion. Please don't sue me. Thank you. Okay, bye. So I'm going to be summarizing all of the allegations and scandals that have been fluctuating around James Charles and his allegedly pedophilic and allegedly predatory behavior from the 2019 Bi-Sister scandal up until present. I'm also going to be doing my makeup while talking about this, so without further ado, let's just get on in it. It sounded sexual. Appropriate for this conversation. So if the narrative of James Charles is a predator sounds familiar to you, it's because this has been circulating for the last 2-ish years, all originating really from the Bi-Sister video made and published by Tati Westbrook. Back in the summer of 2019, Tati Westbrook published her scathing expose video on James Charles titled Bi-Sister. In the video, her main purpose that she claims is that she's tired of James Charles acting like a bad friend behind the scenes, not supporting her, generally just being a jerk, but also for being a little bit of a sexual predator. She kind of doesn't really focus on that part too much. It's more so him not appreciating her for the hard work that she's done as a friend, which, I mean, yeah, I understand definitely, but like, if you find out that your friend potentially could be a sexual predator, I feel like that kind of takes priority over whether or not they supported your goddamn vitamins. The video itself caused quite a bit of stir, and James Charles lost about, I think, overall 4 million subscribers from his YouTube channel, and he lost the most within a day, like record-wise. The YouTube channel to lose the most amount of subscribers in one day. Sister snatched. After Tati's video, it really did seem like James was complete kaput. Like he was done. Canceled. Out the window, out of our minds. No more cover boy, he is cover gone. Back to Tati's Bi-Sister video. On February 14th, 2019, James Charles went to dinner with Tati and her family and Jeffree Star for some reason. I don't even know why he was there, but he was there. And they all go out to dinner to celebrate Tati's birthday. And at the restaurant, James keeps making eye contact and getting some vibes from a waiter. This waiter's name is Sam Cook. So after they kind of make eyes with each other and James asks all the other wait staff, like, what's his deal? I want to talk to him, blah, blah, blah. Sam actually is convinced by his sister that he should message James Charles on Instagram. At the time, Sam had recently identified as bi-curious and, you know, was acting on his curiosity. So he messaged James and was like, hey, how you doing? I'm the guy from the restaurant. James was like, oh my God, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Would you want to get together before I leave Seattle? And he's like, yeah, sure. He rents a hotel room for Sam to come by and hang out, and Sam comes by and they hang out. They watch a movie together, and according to both of them, they both said this happened. They made out for about an hour. James talks about it in one of his videos with Nikita Dragon. He mentions in the video with Nikita that, oh my God, it was such a magical night. I think I think I really found somebody who I can maybe start something with.
I was traveling and I met a really, really beautiful boy at a restaurant, and we caught each other's eye, and I didn't think anything of it. The wait staff was like harassing him because they saw that I kept looking at him and stuff. And the next day, he had DM'd me on Instagram. And he was like, oh my god, I noticed you last night, like I thought you were really beautiful. And I was like, oh my god, can I ask, like, are you straight? And he's like, no, I'm bi.
Okay.
So he, right away, told me he was bi. He clarified, and I was like, oh my god, great, down, perfect, beautiful, amazing, no.
This never happens, by
conversion.
the way.
No, never.
Because we're, a lot of times, like you said, we're over here, like, converting sometimes.
Yeah, he told me he was bi, so I was like, cool. Escalated, he was super, super kind. He wanted to hang out before I was leaving the next morning, so I booked another hotel room in my hotel. Because I had Drew with me, so I was not going to do anything with Drew there. Okay, went and bought a full-on suite. So, like, probably like $1,500, right, for literally one night. Woo! Long story short, we watched a movie together, we cuddled, it was everything. At the end of the movie, he was asking about me and, like, hooking up with guys and stuff, because it was his first time ever doing anything with a guy. He told me he had just recently come out.
Okay.
We made out. Literally one of the most magical hours of my entire life. Like, loved
an
it.
hour of making out.
He was so kind, so sweet. He kept being like, I'm really nervous, like, I don't want to do anything further. Fine, totally good. Totally good. No worries, we don't have to do anything.
But it did not last, because shortly after James had left Seattle, although him and Sam did keep up a relationship, they talked back and forth for about a month, Sam had kind of came to the realization that he is not bi-curious, he is straight, and he's just not interested in James, and he tells James, I'm done. He's not really mean about it. He's very like, hey, I don't know what's going on with myself. I thought I was this, but now I'm this. I'm sorry, goodbye. So James is upset that he wasted a whole month talking to this guy, and instead of being reasonable in his response of like, okay, cool, whatever, have a nice life, he kind of just starts saying, oh, you're actually gay, you're lying to yourself, like, bye, you wasted my time, we're not ending on good terms. So James had actually bought him a ticket to come visit him in California after Sam's birthday, and he was upset that he had to cancel the plane and all this other stuff, which, like, girl, that's a click of a button, who cares? Save the money. You might need it soon.
We proceeded to talk for a while. It was his last night in Seattle. He actually invited me out to his hotel. At that time, I was bi-curious. I had never done anything with a guy before, and I was curious. I get to the hotel room. We say hi. It's all fine. We ended up watching a movie. We ended up making out for around an hour, and if I'm being honest, he's the worst kisser I've ever kissed. He kept telling me to stay, like, please stay, don't leave me. All this and that, but I really wanted to go home. So I left. And throughout the following weeks, we kept in contact. And my birthday was coming up on the 22nd. And he wanted to fly me out to LA. So I told him in a long text message that I am straight and that if he were to fly me out, I wouldn't think it was right if I wasn't attracted to him. His response to me was that he didn't think that I was straight. He told me, you're not straight. I'll throw up the DM conversation right now.
Sam made that video in response to Tati mentioning him in the Bi Sister video. He wanted to explain his side of the story, and I believe the original video was actually deleted. Sam made the video, he uploaded it and then deleted it, and then shortly after, I think it was maybe like a week or so after, he uploaded a second video that said, hey, yeah, James is right, I actually wasn't gay, I honestly just felt a lot of pressure to go hang out with him because he's so famous, and I really didn't know what to do. I was just kind of acting on best intentions, and those didn't come across great. It really is intense to be asked something from somebody so famous and powerful and so rich. So Sam just felt this intense need to appease James and didn't really act on his own interests, but rather being nice to a famous person. And he apologized and told James, hey, I don't think this is gonna work. And James was a crybaby about it, to be honest. I've been broken up with more than I would like to admit. And it definitely doesn't feel good, but at the same time, girl, just pick it up and move on. Like, if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. You got time and money. Just go about your business. James doesn't respond very well to this. And later on, his words kind of come back to bite him, because when Sam made that video and the follow-up, it was kind of shown that James is a bit aggressive, a bit inconsiderate, and kind of just a jerk behind the scenes, which we're going to see more of as we continue through this timeline. So while James is being all butthurt about this situation with Sam, it actually turns out that he was also speaking with somebody else while talking with Sam. So it wasn't like he had all of his eggs in one basket. Excuse me, I am recording a very important YouTube video. Silence yourselves. So while James was talking to Sam, he was actually also talking with somebody else by the name of Gage Gomez. If this name sounds familiar, it's because Gage Gomez was the Coachella date that James Charles went on a whole rampage about during Coachella of 2019. They had been talking to each other and in contact since January 2019, so a good month or so before James had met Sam. While talking to James, Gage claimed that he told James numerous times, "I'm straight, I'm not interested, I have no intention of being anything other than friends." But according to James, he was led on, which honestly, you can never really tell what somebody takes as flirting and what somebody takes as being friendly. It seems like there's no distinction for some people. But according to James, Gage was flirting back, and so much so that James felt compelled to ask him, "Hey, do you want to come to Coachella with me?" This is after he had blocked and unblocked Gage, by the way. Apparently, all the times that Gage kept kind of turning down James would get really bitter and just block him and then unblock him when he wanted to ask him something. So it doesn't, again, seem like James is very mature before or after the sister situation. So James invites him to Coachella, and at first Gage is like, no, I'm not interested, no thank you. I don't know what your intentions are, blah, blah, blah. And then James asks again. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come? Yes or no? Come on, give me an answer. It's Coachella." So Gage says yes, okay, let's go. But he supposedly goes under the intention that they're just going to be friends, have a good time, be friendly with each other, nothing serious. He thought they were going as friends. James thought they were going as more than friends. So there's clearly a miscommunication here somewhere. Tana Mojo is also there. I think they all went as a group. Whether or not they shared a Airbnb is unclear to me, but they were all involved with each other at one point. Over the course of the Coachella weekend, Gage makes it sound like, he was just acting as a friend, but there's some video circulating that he was actually holding James's hand, and according to Tana at the time, she said you were flirting with him. She later took back her words. So it's a little unclear how they all acted at Coachella, but the most that we can deduce is that James and Gage got into a confrontation that led to Gage leaving Coachella early. So Gage had basically ruined James's weekend at Coachella, and later on in the week, James decided to go back to Coachella for weekend 2, but he didn't have an artist pass, so he was vulnerable to the public, and this led him to making the Sugar Bear hair ad that Tati Westbrook got pissed off about and made by Sister for. And that led to the most intense cancellation of YouTube history. So James's response to the Bye Sister video was first initially a quick apology to Tati. He uploaded a video named Tati and just apologized for the things he did as a bad friend, but didn't really address the whole sexual predator thing. So after that didn't work, James comes back with his No More Lies video, which had receipts, screenshots. He had everything but the damn monkey bitch. He had the whole enchilada served on a platter like, hello, this is the truth. There you have it. But I have to say, after watching it again a year later, he does have some manipulative speech in his video, but overall it's still a very cut and dry, here's the evidence type of video, which at the time wasn't really debunking anything super sinister because the allegations were coming from Tati and from Jeffree Star. They didn't have any victims to say, hey, here's the proof that James did this. They were kind of just saying a bunch of things on Twitter and on YouTube, and it didn't really amount to anything. And oh my god, that looks so violent. Hold on. At the time that James posted his No More Lies video, everyone basically flip-flopped back to James's side and was like, oh my god, Tati is this super jealous mom, and she lied, blah, blah, blah. After the Bye Sister scandal and the No More Lies, James is back on top. It seems like James is unstoppable. He gained all of his subscribers back. He's posting videos. He's doing collabs with celebrities. It doesn't seem like this thing affected him at all. But he does mention a few times in interviews and on his own personal social media that this whole situation caused him to think some very dark thoughts or doing something very drastic that was undoable?
I'm helpful to my best friends, especially the ones that were with me in Australia, that kept me from making a really, really dangerous, irreversible choice that I would not have been able to take back. Because if it weren't for them, I would not be alive today.
So it's safe to say that this whole situation had left a big scar on James and that he was definitely going to be moving smarter and with more consideration in the future, right? Right? Wrong. One of the first accusations towards James Charles came out during 2019. I believe it was sometime maybe like 2 months, 3 months after the Bi Sister scandal. A TikToker by the name Ethan Andrews comes forward with a video and a series of social media stories claiming that James had messaged him and acted inappropriately, even though Ethan had said, "I'm a minor, I am under the age of 18. James still continued to talk to him and send him sexually explicit photos, according to Ethan.
Talking about, where's the facts, where's the receipt saying that you were 14? I don't have the receipts. I told him on FaceTime, I told him on Snapchat. I have like a 3-second video of us being on FaceTime, okay? I am 14 years old. I have 330,000 followers on TikTok. I'm not trying to be arrogant. My age is on the internet, okay? It says 15, it's a 1-year difference. I'm still a minor. I'm still underage. My age is on the internet, okay? If he really wanted to look that deep into it, he could have looked up my age. I told him my age. He knew my age. So to everybody saying, where's the receipts? I don't have the receipts. I have the receipts of him wanting to fly me out, though. I have the receipts of all of that. Okay? He was trying to flip it on me, saying that I said I was 18 years old. I didn't say I was 18 years old. Okay? He talked about me on Logan Paul's podcast and texted him asking if there was shade being thrown at me. You know what? He said no. He was talking about some Romanian boy, okay? First of all, it's crazy how that Romanian boy said everything I was saying to him, making all those excuses. I was uncomfortable. I didn't want to come see you alone. I had my homeboy. I asked my homeboy if he would come with me because I didn't want to be with you alone because you sent me nudes. And every time you sent me nudes, I left you unopened. And you know what? You would get mad or you would snap me back. You would continue snapping me. Okay? I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Alright? I had mixed emotions. I didn't know what to do. He kept taking it too far. I didn't know what to do. I was stuck in a position where I didn't know what to do. So for everybody saying, oh, where's the receipt? Saying, oh, you were 14 years old. I don't have it. I don't have the receipts. At the time, I wasn't thinking this would happen. I started feeling uncomfortable, and I thought I would have to come out to the public talking about this whole situation because there might be kids out there my age that this has happened to, and they want to get it out, but they're too afraid. So I'm standing up for myself, just as well as these other kids that it's probably happened to.
Ethan posted a video explaining his whole situation with his brother. However, that video has been deleted, so I can't find the original one. The one that I saw is mocking the situation, so I'm not going to link it down below, but if I can find a version that you can watch, I'll link it. But in the video, he was explaining that he and his friends were trolling on James Charles's Snapchat, Instagram, one of his lives. They were trolling on James Charles. Ethan and James add each other on Snapchat sometime after that live. Ethan is like, oh my god, this guy's added me, oh my goodness, it's James Charles, he's super rich and famous, like let me see what's up. And the conversation between them got very sexual very quickly because of James. He started sending him nudes, and according to Ethan, he would just delete them, he would never open them, and if he did, he would leave him unopened so that way he can kind of be like, hey, I'm not interested in this kind of stuff. And he said he told James, I am straight, I am underage, please no thank you, and yet James seems to continue sending him this kind of content. He was just trying to create a PSA of some kind, according to him. So James dismisses this guy as somebody who's lying, and because there's not a lot of screenshot evidence, it was kind of easy for James to just shrug this guy off and say, oh, you know, this was just an attention seeker, it's a false allegation, blah, blah, blah. And because he was so well received after the No More Lies video, everyone was just like, okay, sure, whatever. Obviously, it's an attention grab, we need to just move on, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out that was not an attention grab. It was indeed a pattern of behavior from Mr. Sister Charles. In 2020, when everybody and their mother was starting to join TikTok, James Charles posted a TikTok bachelor video in which he basically put out an ad for a relationship. Now, what's weird about this, even without the context, is that majority of people know or understand that TikTok is a children's app. It's got a few people above age, it's got a few people that are well into their mature years and stuff like that, but majority of the users, majority of the people engaging with James Charles are young. So it's a bit weird that James put out basically a personal ad on TikTok. I mean, it's a personal ad. The way he describes it and everything, he's basically saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. If you're interested, hit me up. Think of the Pina Colada song, you know? When he's like,
reading through the personal ads, saw this girl who likes fucking on the beach and drinking pina coladas.
you know, that's a personal ad. That's saying, hey, I'm interested in meeting somebody who fits this criteria. If you fit the criteria, hit me up. So moving on to June of 2020, Tati posts her Breaking My Silence video in which she again exonerates James Charles and instead points the blame for the whole situation of Bye Sister on Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. She claims that they had lied to her about James Charles and that no victims had come forward, and it really did solidify that James was just a pawn in their scheme in order to get views and sell out a palette and all this stuff. Or so we thought. February 26, 2021. Isaiah posted to his Twitter a collection of Snapchats he received from James Charles. One in particular, you can see James's face in the Snapchat with a caption that said that he wanted Isaiah to get in the shower, put the camera down, put it on hands-free mode, and flex his whole body so that James could see everything, including and specifically mentioning his body hair. This is a 16-year-old. That is fucking gross. Another Snapchat showed James saying to him, I bet you could make me finish by just flexing and showing off your body hair, haha, without even taking your dick out. I love the addition of the haha, as if they're having a laughing conversation while talking about sex with a minor. He also sent him a lot of sexual images of his butt. So you're probably wondering, did James know he was a minor when this was happening? Surely this must be a situation in which he didn't know, or else he wouldn't have engaged in this kind of conversation. You would be wrong.
Okay, so trigger warning. I will be talking about grooming and James Charles, so if you get triggered by any of those, keep scrolling, but if not, watch this video, please. So last Wednesday on the 17th, James Charles snapped me on Snapchat. He added me back because I had snapped him a while ago, just like a fan to influencer conversation. I was excited because he's my biggest influencer-wise, and I've always looked up to him, so I was excited to get his message back. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to post proof of it right now. This is the notification that I got when he Snapchatted me first. And just for further proof, he deleted the chat. I don't know what he deleted, but that's me opening his Snapchat. I went into the bathroom, and I guess he saw the bathroom light, so he started making the conversation very sexual, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I'll post some of the stuff that he sent me now. You can't see it because it's blurry, because I took it on my iPad, because I don't want him to see that I screenshotted it, but I'll post it right now. He proceeded to send me explicit pictures of his body. I was getting really uncomfortable, so I told him my age. I told him I'm 16. Meanwhile, he's 21. He's a grown man. And then he proceeds to say, oh, but I didn't even get to see meaning my body. And after telling him, no, I'm not going to send it to you, he kept on asking for pictures and videos of body hair and me flexing and stuff. He proceeded to ask to FaceTime me, which I then said no to, and then I asked why. And this is what he said.
According to Isaiah, James never asked him for his age, and although Isaiah had posted it publicly on his TikTok and on his Instagram, it somehow evaded James, and he continued to have this sexual conversation and relationship with a 16-year-old. This situation in particular is actually what sparked James's first response in this series of allegations coming forward. This was the one relating to his little text apology he posted on Twitter, in which he claimed that the person in question, the person who sent him the Snapchats, did indeed tell him that he was above the age of consent and that this was just going to be their little secret. And once his age was revealed to James, James claimed to have blocked him and not continued the conversation any further. However, according to Isaiah, that conversation never happened about age, and that it was actually James who initiated the conversation to be sexual and started sending him the nudes. We have to remember that James went through this already with the Bye Sister scandal. And then when that happened, he claimed he was going to be better about vetting the people he's interested in and only moving forward with people that he has put a little bit of an investigation into. It just seems so careless and almost too careless. How can you go through that entire life-altering, life-changing event and then still make the same mistakes? Isaiah also mentions that James knew that he was underage because he made a comment along the lines of, "Oh, I can't wait until you turn 18." So I think James knew. In my opinion, after going through all of this, there's no way that James didn't ask, "How old are you?" or had an inclination to ask, "Hey, are you legal?" Regardless if Isaiah was the one to initiate this conversation or to initiate this relationship, it's James Charles's job as the adult. It's his responsibility to say, "Hey, I don't know you. This conversation is getting a bit extreme. Can I please have some identification?" He can't verify that a fan is telling the truth unless he verifies it himself. He can't just trust people like that. And I'm not saying this as in like, "James, you're dumb, why are you getting caught?" It's, "James, you're dumb, why are you talking to fans in a sexual way?" The next credible accuser, I say credible because there was, I think, damn near like 12 people that had come forward with some kind of evidence about James Charles. I'm gonna really mainly talk about the two that were at least acknowledged by James. The rest, I'll leave resources down below for you to check out. But the next person to come out with a story about James Charles was a guy by the name Life of Uzi. I don't know how to go about this. I'm gonna say Uzi. I think that's correct. I'm sorry. I apologize. My brain is dumb. And he was the one to actually reach out to James during the whole bi sister thing. And according to Uzi, James kind of disregarded him as a person, was more interested in the sexual aspects that he could offer.
Alright guys, so I've decided that I want to talk about the incident, and I'm going to tell you guys the exact full story, since a lot of you guys are coming at me and you guys seem very confused, so here's the full story. So basically, when James was getting cancelled for the whole Tati Westbrook and Sam Cooke situation, I decided to reach out to him via Instagram DMs. I don't vividly remember what I said to him, but I did say something like, "If you need to talk to somebody, since you're experiencing all this, like, you can definitely talk to me about it." I also added that I was single. Anyway, so James responds to my DMs and he goes, he's not really looking for anything, but I'm cute. So I was like, okay, cool. As a normal person would do, I was like, "Here's my number if you change your mind." Then he told me to send a video of me introducing myself, so I did. So right after that, he asked me for my Snapchat and I gave it to him, so he added me. So basically, we started talking on Snapchat, and it didn't seem like he had any weird intentions. Like, we were getting to know each other. Anyways, my manager gives me a call, and she tells me she wants me to come to work, so I go to work for like a few hours, and I come home around 2:45 a.m. And then I realized that I forgot to respond to James' messages, so I was like, oh fuck. So I messaged him, having a conversation on Snap, and he starts getting a little flirty, and I was like, let's just take it slow, but obviously he didn't want. Anyways, he goes, send me a shirtless picture, and I was like, okay, whatever, I don't care, because I post that shit on my story, you know? So then he starts going, oh, send me pictures of your boxers, show me what you're wearing. And then he goes, let me see your armpits. And I was like, what? I didn't want to lose the opportunity to talk to him, so I just did what he said because, like, I was still shocked that he messaged me, you know? So anyways, he screenshots a photo that I sent him, and I was like, yo, why the fuck are you screenshotting my shit? And he goes, oh, it's not like I'm going to do anything with it. And I'm like, if you're not going to do anything with it, why are you screenshotting it? Anyways, things start to get really weird because he started asking me for pics of this thing over here, and I was like, what the fuck do I do? Like, do I send it? I didn't know what to do. I know a lot of you guys were saying, oh, like, you could have blocked him, blah, 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 but the thing is, like, when you're talking to somebody that you look up to, it's not as easy to do so. I did mention to him that I suffer from anxiety, depression, and that I said I came out of a very toxic relationship. He didn't seem to give a shit about that, and I feel like his biggest concern was how big my was. Anyways, after sending him a couple Snapchats, he started to question my confidence because I wouldn't send him a specific video that he wanted. After feeling uncomfortable, I did tell him that I wasn't going to send it, and he started to question my confidence, which I find very, very disrespectful. It's like, you should never question somebody's confidence because that could, honestly, I'm not going to lie, that specific thing that he said to me did kind of mess up my confidence. He messages. If you pause over here, it says 3:56 a.m., okay? So anyways, I'm just sitting there and I'm just really, really anxious and scared, and then he decides to video call me. As you can see, just wait. See, he video calls me. So after our call ended, and as you can see on the top, it says 3:59 a.m. That literally shows that I didn't delete any messages because he literally says that he can't talk, but he could text, if you read it right there. Now I'll tell you the conversation that we had on the phone. I noticed that when I didn't want to do what he said, he started to give me attitude, and I told him, I literally said to him, I'm tired, I need to sleep. It's like 4 a.m., and I said that my parents are going to wake up, I need to sleep, and he didn't care. Like, he kept putting that under the rug. He's like, yo, go to the bathroom, do this, do that.
Although Uzi did comply to a certain extent, he did send him photos, and you can see in the screenshots that he provides, James was still very demanding and was like, hey, no, do this and this. And that's a common thing across a lot of these stories, is that James is just very forceful. He's very like, I want you to do this, and you're going to do it because I want you to. And when people don't give him what he wants, he gets upset and blocks them or leaves them on red or stuff that's just really petty and gross. These allegations came forward in March of 2021. There's a specific instance Uzi details in his TikTok videos in which James Charles wanted to FaceTime Uzi, but he didn't have the ability to show his face or talk. He just wanted to see Uzi, and he was like, that's a bit weird, what the hell? And James kept pressuring him and saying, hey, let's talk, but it was 4 a.m. He's supposed to be in bed. His parents are in the next room. But James is pressuring him to have a FaceTime, but Uzi's like, it's 4 a.m, my parents are gonna hear me, and I don't think it's a good idea. They're gonna walk in and bust me for talking to a 21-year-old on the internet at 4 a.m. when I'm 16. So James says, well, why don't you just go into the bathroom and we can talk then? And Uzi's like, listen, this is a lot and I don't want to do this. Please stop. It is 4 a.m. Can we just be done with this? But James keeps going and keeps saying, hey, do this and that. There are a few other people coming forward with stories about James that weren't necessarily about James reaching out to them with sexual content, but rather James just acting creepy. A lot of people pointed out his interaction with Jeff Wittick on his collab video, that he was acting a bit sexual towards him and was being a little bit too forward in his flirtation, even though Jeff said, hey, I'm straight, no thank you. There was another instance that supposedly, allegedly, I have to really this is alleged, okay? One of the people from James's hometown says that James had actually catfished the entire boys soccer team from their high school to get their nudes, and did so by wearing a wig and Snapchatting them explicit things. There's some proof scattered across the internet of this. It doesn't show hard facts that James did this, but James does have a history that he has documented for us of him being a little strategic, let's say, with men when it comes to dating apps. There's even a video of him and Tana. I think they're either doing Tana's makeup or they're rating Coachella outfits. There's a video with Tana in which James is picking out a wig to wear in order to catfish a guy he's talking to on Snapchat.
We're about to start filming, and James goes, should I put on a wig to Snapchat that guy? And now it's literally choosing a wig.
Should I be blonde or brunette right now?
I think blonde. Blondes have more fun.
That's so true, Tana.
And if anything says, hey, I'll suck your cock, it's a blonde wig.
You would know.
Guys, I've spent the last few hours millionaire matchmaking, and I'm just really trying to get James and Jeff to be together, and it's a lot harder than you would think.
Yeah, it really doesn't really work out when someone's straight.
As you're putting on a wig to Snapchat a straight guy. The fucking kitty bitch filter too.
Ooh. That's
It's good.
everything. I'm so professional.
There was also a podcast clip that was circulating from Impulsive in which James was describing his ideal guy or his ideal boyfriend as somebody who is close to 18 or is 20 with a young personality.
Okay, so the thing is for me, I'm 21, but like I said, I have the mentality of a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm much more mentally and emotionally mature than a lot of people my age. I'm not physically attracted to older guys, which sucks. I would date the absolute youngest, 18, 19 that looks a little bit older, or 24 that has a young personality.
Okay.
Relationships are all about balance, and I think the balance comes in different forms.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of times too where a lot of guys will be like, oh, I want to take you out to dinner, but I can't afford it. And I'm like, okay, totally understand that, but I can.
Yeah,
So
right.
for me, as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort and love into it, I can gladly provide the money for the relationship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's if you care about somebody, everybody has to make
Yeah.
sacrifices. And those sacrifices, just like the things that just like the puzzle pieces, the sacrifices come in different forms too. So it's if I'm sacrificing my time, which makes me a lot of money when I'm focusing my time on, my business. If I'm sacrificing my time to spend time with somebody that I care about, I need you to sacrifice the ego of getting on a flight that somebody else paid for, so we can hang out. I have not had many flyouts, as you're calling them, and whenever I have, it's been people that I was talking to for quite a while, and FaceTiming every night beforehand.
Okay,
so,
good.
talk to a lot of different guys that that live in different states as well. This is a better example than just dinner. I've talked to guys that live in different states and stuff, and I'm like, hey, why don't you come visit? Well, I can't afford a plane ticket.
Yep.
And it's okay, well, I can. So get on the plane. And well, I just don't really feel comfortable with that. But I love you and I really want to be together. And I'm well, we can't be together because you can't afford a plane ticket. You're probably still in either high school or college, like a senior in high school or in college.
Right.
So like either you accept the flight and realize that like this is what I'm bringing to the relationship so we can spend time together if you actually care about me.
Yeah.
Or we literally never meet because you can't afford it.
That's frustrating.
He kind of describes basically a high school guy as his dream partner, and he insinuates that he'll take anybody that is close to or of the legal age. He also completely slips up in his speech during that interview and says, I'm really interested in high school seniors.
We can't be together because you can't afford a plane ticket. You're probably still in either high school or college, like a senior in high school or in college.
Because he's talking about how a lot of the people he's interested in tend to be either in their last few years of high school or in their first few years of college, so they don't really have the means or the money to come visit James. Hello, editing me here. Sorry to insert this. I don't think I fully emphasized how strange it is that James goes specifically for people in this age bracket, because typically when you're fresh out of high school into college, you're not really financially stable. I mean, obviously there's cases where your parents help you out or you have a job, but for the most part, you're not really able to make expenses like a plane ticket on a whim the way James Charles can. So by specifically going after guys within this age bracket, he is specifically going for people who he knows financially are not in the same place as him. Therefore, he has more of a power dynamic in that relationship, because those kind of things make people feel like they're in debt. When you buy me this crazy thing, I feel I need to get you something just as crazy. You know, we all have that friend at the Christmas party that goes way too hard, and it's like, Sarah, please, not everyone can afford AirPod Pros. My point is, I want to emphasize that it's very strange that he goes after this age bracket in this kind of financial place, and he himself says, well, they can't afford a plane ticket, so I can buy them one. Why don't you come out and visit me? Like, James, the reason that they don't want to come out for a free plane ticket is that it's a free plane ticket. There's a catch. There's going to be some kind of inclination for payback. I just wanted to emphasize that. Sorry, let's continue. It doesn't create a good look for him considering what is circulating online right now. So after more people come forward, after more things spread online about James Charles, after all of this, James Charles comes out with a video on April 1st, 2021, which is such a stupid day. Why would you pick that day? He does acknowledge his actions that cause these things and takes full accountability for the things happening. He takes responsibility. He calls them victims.
I didn't understand how a situation like this could affect the people involved, but now I do. And for that, to the victims, I am so, so sorry. And I promise that something like this will never, ever happen again.
So when things started to become too much for James to just ignore, like the first initial accusation that came forward, people like Deaf Noodles were collecting everything they could on James. The Frenemies podcast was in full height, so they were talking about it constantly. And a lot of people were on high alert for James and his potentially nefarious behavior. So this video was not like the No More Lies video, which pretty much completely exonerated him from the accusations at the time. This video, according to James, was from his heart, and he's just going to sit down and tell you what happened from his point of view, and that's that. He's going to just lay himself out emotionally and hope for the best. Everyone was keeping an eye on this, everyone. And it got to a point where they started demanding some kind of recognition of the situation from James's sponsors, most notably Chipotle and Morphe. They took away the James Charles order, but Morphe stayed pretty quiet on the whole situation for a while. They posted a short little response to the situation saying basically that they're gonna stop marketing the James Charles palette, which, if you don't know, James had a big collaboration with Morphe in which they came out with this big 36 or 39 pan palette. It has everything you would ever need, and it's actually a really good palette. I use it for my makeup gigs, or I used to back in the day. It's a great palette, and I'm really annoyed that James is tied to it because I feel like they probably would have came out with something like that anyway. But Morphe came out with this quick little statement saying that they're not going to market the palette anymore and that they're going to do an internal investigation on what's going on and make a decision then. They basically were like, we're not talking about this and we're not going to talk about James until this all dies down because he is our cash cow and we are not done milking him. And what's funny is that James says a lot of things that could actually be held up in court if somebody decided to move forward with these allegations and accusations. So a lot of people were confused by James's approach with this video, and I think even James was confused. This seems like something he did as a way to be like, okay, I need to get this out there so everyone leaves me alone so I can get back to my life and keep doing weird shit that I want to do. So he posts that video, and then he goes on a social media break. But he actually didn't take a break because several times in between this video and the next video we're going to talk about, he made appearances on Twitter, on Instagram. He even came back to wish himself a happy birthday. So he really wasn't off working on himself. It just seems like I'm just going to not like anything on my main accounts for a little bit. I'm going to be over on my Finsta. On July 2nd, 2021, James Charles uploads a video called An Open Conversation. Now this is where we are today with James Charles. He uploads this video, completely retells what happened between him and these guys, and tries to make himself sound like the victim rather than these literal children.
Full picture of what actually went down. There was basically one drama channel on Twitter that started a thread and started compiling a list of anybody that said literally anything about me on social media. And after what felt like weeks of somebody new coming forward every single day, it eventually became the 20 victims of James Charles. I am not going to go through this list one by one because I know that nobody wants to sit here for an hour listening to me talk about this, but I do feel as though I have to say something because I am just not comfortable with this video or really any video moving forward allowing anybody, let alone my followers, to think that there are any victims of James Charles, let alone 20 victims of James Charles, because that is completely, unequivocally not true. I didn't understand how a situation like this could affect the people involved, but now I do. And for that, to the victims, there were a few different influencers from TikTok that slid into my DMs or I slid into their DMs and had a 5-minute conversation with them until asking their age or sexuality and then completely stopped responding. There were guys that I matched with on Tinder last year and they had their ages set to 18 or 19, so I talked to them and flirted with them for a while because that's the whole point of an adult dating app until I realized that they were lying, so I blocked them. In case anybody isn't aware of what's going on, within the past couple of weeks, 2 different people, both under the age of 18, have recently come forward saying that they had inappropriate messages with me on social media. One of them being from last year and one of them being from more recent. In both of these cases, I added these people on Snapchat, on Tinder.
So by James saying that it happened over on Tinder, he's making it sound like, oh, this was on an adult app and he knew it was an adult app and these kids are the ones who are at fault for doing inappropriate things on an adult sanctioned app. But that's not true because it was happening on social media. So by dressing it differently, it makes it sound less serious and therefore easier for him to come back from these very serious allegations. And the other half of this video is him basically just giving a life update that nobody cared for or asked for. It's just really making this whole thing seem like, oh, it was just blown out of proportion as usual because of the internet. But in reality, the internet actually got it right this time. This actually turned out pretty good. I'm quite impressed with myself. At the end of the video, he uses this whole butterfly analogy for himself in that he's starting over, he's rebirthing himself, and he's going to be a new person going forward. Now, I don't believe this because we have seen this kind of behavior before. A few years ago, you might remember, you may not, but there was a very prominent singer, songwriter, and a cappella YouTuber by the name of Austin Jones. He came to popularity because he did a lot of musical covers to Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and was kind of riding the wave of those fandoms. Austin Jones was exposed in 2015 for having inappropriate conversations with underage girls. In these conversations, he would request the girls to show pictures, show video of their private areas, and twerk for him. When he was exposed about this, he came out with a video called Setting the Record Straight, in which he admitted to the acts happening. He admitted that he asked fans to twerk for him. He said that he did this because he was desperate, he did it because he was lonely, and he swears he'll never do it again. He's learned his lesson. He was misguided in this pursuit of satisfaction. He also brings up the fact that he experienced suicidal thoughts. He was potentially going to put himself in harm's harm's way due to the people exposing him and going after him online. He claimed after the accusations came forward, he checked himself into a mental hospital and he's now all better. He won't do anything ever again. He's super sorry. He really only did this out of desperation. Where have we heard this before?
It sucks and it is ridiculously embarrassing to admit this, but I think I have to, and that is that I'm desperate.
So after Austin Jones made that video, he was actually able to come back to social media pretty much unscathed and continue to grow his career with these acapella videos that went super viral. I mean, he was everywhere, okay? He even got invited to go perform on Warped Tour when that was alive. It wasn't until 2017 when a warrant was made out for his arrest that he was actually able to be taken off of the internet and detached from his power control over fans and his sexualizing of them, and was finally held accountable legally for his actions. I believe he's currently still in jail at this moment. I don't know if he'll ever be let out, but I think it's going to be a while. He had a few counts on him, girl. I mean, he is in trouble. He's also balding now, which... did we not see that coming? But regardless, the point of me bringing up Austin Jones is that he himself went through a similar sequence that James is going through. And Austin Jones was able to come back, and this was a guy that had admitted to and had recorded evidence of asking underage girls for sexual videos, and he was still able to come back to the internet the same way that James is doing so right now. So I don't know. James seems to be moving on from this. I don't think we're gonna hear the last of this situation. That's that. That is the condensed version of the James Charles situation. I hope I was able to provide some clarity, if not just some context for why people are feeling some type of way about James right now. In my opinion, it's completely warranted. I would not trust James as far as I can throw him, and I am a weak little bitch. I mean, look at my wrist. Teeny tiny, okay? I really enjoyed having you here, and I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. If you're interested in my social media, it's all linked down below. I'm most active on Instagram, but you can catch me doing some weird shit on TikTok every now and then. And feel free to keep the conversation going down in the comments. If you leave something nasty or negative, I will be deleting it. I'm not going to be shady. It's me. I deleted it. It was me. Me, bitch. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.